2, 3, 4.
Hello and welcome to the NESN Soccer Podcast. I'm Mark, along with Marcus and Nick, here to discuss the aftermath of the 2018 FIFA World Cup in Russia. France won, to the chagrin of Marcus and I, but to Nick's great pleasure. I'm still unsure exactly why he is such a big France fan. Maybe he'll explain in the
It's
minutes
not so
to
much
come.
that I'm really a fan. I'm a United States fan, but you know, in 1998, quick story. The first game I ever watched was the 98 final. I loved the way France played, and you know, I'd like watched them ever since. And honestly, I thought they had the most tournament talent coming into this tournament.
That's nice. No, I mean, France looked, maybe they saved their best for last in the final. They looked like too much for Croatia and capitalized when they needed to. But the biggest takeaway for me from the final is, and it's not exactly a unique opinion, that they are extremely young. Started 6 players at 25 or younger in the final. The average age was 25.8 years old of the starters for France. They look like they are ready to have a very dominant run of form over the next, certainly I think into the next World Cup and possibly further than that when it comes to the United States in 2026. And I think that's kind of the biggest news of world soccer as far as actual on-the-field play to come out of this World Cup, is that France is just in a very good spot right now.
They definitely are. And when you look at their team, they're very young, headlined by Mbappe, who's only 19. I believe he became the first player since Pele, first teenager to score in a World Cup final.
Yeah, they're the only two.
It's pretty impressive. And you know, Pogba's only 25, Griezmann 27, Lemar, who really didn't play at all, Thomas Lemar is 22, Olivier Giroud, who did not score, he'll be gone. He's 31.
Not one shot on goal.
Yeah, I was going to say, did he ever get
in
one?
7 games.
Ousmane Dembele, who really didn't play, good player for Barcelona, is only 21. Tolisso is only 23, and on and on. Matuidi probably gone. He's 31. Adil Rami, 32. I mean, Nabil Fekir, possible Liverpool target, 24 years old. Mendy didn't play at all after recovering from an ACL injury. He's only 23. So they've got plenty of young guys who can really play for, I would say, 2 more World Cups.
Yeah.
So yeah, we'll see if Didier Deschamps stays as manager. I think there will always be the Zinedine Zidane rumors out there. But I thought he did a really good job at this tournament as well. And when you're looking, there's really no dominant team right now. France is as well positioned as anyone to really dominate the next 8 to 10 years.
How happy do you think Zidane is about this? He was...
Probably not very... I mean, he's happy for France, but managerial prospects not probably.
Yeah, he was next in line. If France, let's say they went out in the round of 16 or the quarterfinal or something like that, Zidane would be in the job today, and he would be the guy that would lead France to their World Cup. Didier Deschamps on that list of players who played and managed and became, you know, world champions. Yeah, he beat Zidane to the punch.
Right. Do you think that that is really something that Zidane really wants?
No. Oh wait, to have the France job?
Yeah.
At some point, probably.
Yeah.
Yes.
He's definitely the next guy in line, and winning the World Cup buys you, I think, the next 4 years, basically.
I mean, I think if Deschamps wants to be at the next World Cup, he probably will be, right? I don't know what his contract situation is. But he did a good job. I mean, playing Benjamin Pavard over some of their other veterans. Pavard's only 22 at right back. That was a good move. I mean, he got the most out of Pogba. He got more out of Pogba than Mourinho did at Manchester United last year.
He did, yeah.
He deserves to be there if he wants to be. One interesting thing, though, we saw a lot of goal scoring in this final, which we typically don't see. We talked about last podcast, the last 3 finals, 1-1, 1-0, 1-0, and we have 4-2. France scored the most goals of any team in a World Cup final since Brazil beat Italy 4-1 in 1970.
Wow.
And this was the highest scoring final since 1966, I believe.
Yes, when England won by the same score over West Germany.
I wasn't around in either of those World Cups, but I am fairly firm in this view that the score flattered the game. The 6 goals suggest the game itself, the final, was better than it was immediately after the final whistle, which is probably the worst time to try and talk to me when I'm covering a game. Somebody who works in this building, I won't name him, was asking, you know, whether it was a great game or not, and I kind of looked at him incredulously, and I'm like, no. France had 33% possession.
Yeah.
Croatia had 67% possession and didn't do that much with it. From a technical level, I wasn't that impressed with the game.
France is pretty lucky to be up 2-1 when they were.
Well, yeah.
First half, they were not the better team at all.
No. First goal scored against the run of play.
Yeah.
Second goal, Croatia scored the second goal. France's second goal, controversially awarded through VAR.
Even their first goal, people don't think Griezmann, they thought he dove.
No, he did dive.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
a couple controversial calls there. Then, of course, the VAR. I mean, it was a clear handball. Question of intentional or not, does that even matter?
For me, the best moment of the game
does.
was
Yeah.
Croatia's first goal. It was the best strike. It was kind of part of the run of play, at least early on, where it seemed like Croatia was not only in France's half, but in France's seemingly 18-yard box multiple times and kind of getting a lot of shots on Hugo Lloris and a lot of threatening opportunities.
They didn't have any shots on goal.
Did they not?
They had some pretty dangerous
They had
crosses
dangerous-
that came in.
dangerous-
Yeah, dangerous
They weren't even
crosses.
able- weren't
France's
able to
defenders
get them.
were all in position. They had the ball. They were crossing into the box. France's defenders were dealing with everything. It wasn't really. First goal kind of came out of nowhere. Second goal, 10 minutes later, was just a reaction, a response, but also out of nowhere. It wasn't like Croatia had wave after wave of promising chances. So 3 goals in the first half, and then the second half had Mbappe scored, Pogba scored, kind of after Croatia had collapsed physically and mentally. And then Mandzukic's goal, which was just pure comedy. What was he thinking at that moment?
Just kick it out.
Yeah, that was
Trying to get cute with it.
weird.
Yeah, so my point is 6 goals makes it look like it was this great final, but I talk about aesthetics all the time. It wasn't. You guys, I'll fight anybody that's gonna say that this was a great game played at a high level. It wasn't.
What was your favorite moment of Croatia's run to the final, being the second smallest nation to ever make it?
I think them beating Argentina was pretty exciting. I think Argentina was, they have Messi, obviously. They were one of the favorites coming in. And beating Argentina like that pretty convincingly was an exciting result and one of the first upsets of the tournament.
Right. I kind of agree with you, Nick. The goals in that game were kind of outrageous. Argentina gave one away with their keeper's mishap in their first goal of that game. But then Modric also had one from
Great strike. Yeah.
25, 30 yards out that, as great as he is, was very unexpected that he even decided to shoot that one. But it was just kind of a sign of things to come, that things are kind of falling their way.
Wasn't it more of a sign that Argentina was in serious trouble and
A little both.
had all but quit by the 90th minute?
With Argentina, well, yeah, in that game, yes. At the end of the day, they lost to Croatia and France.
Yes.
And those two teams were in the final. So it's like, is that worth anything?
Argentina
A
appreciates your
footnote in
glass
history.
half full mentality.
Yeah. So Argentina's the 3rd best team in the tournament. Is that what you're
absolutely
saying?
not, absolutely not. But maybe it wasn't quite the utter disaster that
Yeah,
it
maybe
was
they
made out
weren't.
to
Maybe
be.
they weren't the 15th best team in the tournament, but Argentina, they weren't that good.
No, they weren't. Certainly not. Certainly didn't deserve really to go any further than they did. But any sort of idea that Messi is some sort of giant failure or the whole collective group of players didn't do their job, they just weren't ready to make a run to the final.
Yeah, give Croatia their kudos, sure, but these tournaments now they've just become wars of attrition, and whoever's standing at the end wins. As opposed to, we talked about Spain, I think, in 2010 or 2012 in the Euros, just blowing away the field with their quality of play. We haven't seen something like that in a long time. And I think this tournament sort of followed the pattern of the Euros, where teams just do what you have to do to reach the next game. You do what you have to do to win that game, and you move on, or you don't.
Well, you mentioned the 2010 World Cup, Spain. They're all 4 of their knockout stage victories were
1-0,
1-0.
yeah. No, I said, yeah, so I would put
Euro-
Spain,
the next
Spain
Euros
in the
they did.
Euros where they were really
Yeah, the Euros they opened it
exceptional.
up and dominated. Yeah.
I was just about to ask, do you think that France can develop into that level
I sure hope so.
with their young roster and with the incredible amount of experience that they've put together over the course of 2 years?
Not under Didier Deschamps.
Yeah.
That's just not in his personality, his makeup. He's too pragmatic. It's the way he played, it's the way his teams play, the way he coaches. Not under him.
So they could have the same success, not just the same goal scoring as Spain
Yes,
had.
they can win, but they won't be beloved.
All right, well, yeah, okay, let's jump to World Cup winners and losers. This list that we're going to kind of reference was put together by Yahoo Sports. The first winner they have is FIFA.
Yes, this is Yahoo Sports' Henry Bushnell, who's put together a fine list that I think we can use as our reference point.
So FIFA are winners. Why are FIFA winners?
Because they emerged from the FIFA scandal of 2015 and put together a tournament that FIFA and, well, I guess FIFA sort of declared it. Gianni Infantino, in his closing press conference, said it was the best World Cup ever. And then they asked him for why, and he said, here's the list I have. 98% stadiums full. Don't know if that's true. 1 million traveling fans, 3 billion television viewers, 11 billion social media views. 7 million people attended FanFest, VAR success, anti-doping, 0 positive tests, anti-discrimination, few incidents. There was only 1 0-0 game, great stadiums, good drama, and operational excellence, which is all the behind-the-scenes stuff that it takes to move masses of people around countries for a month. So yeah, on those fronts, it was good. Good advert for FIFA and their ability to do business.
That it's hard to argue with all that list.
But I want to get back to the football, the soccer itself, the product on the field. I would argue no great teams. We're a little short on truly standout players. Luka Modric got the golden ball. I wasn't wild about that decision. I thought maybe it should go to somebody on the winning team, and Modric wasn't. He was good throughout the World Cup, but it wasn't so great that he was sort of the runaway winner of it. I thought N'Golo Kante probably deserved the golden ball due to his key role on France's team. So no great teams, no great players. Out of 64 games, I think I could pick off maybe 6 or 7 that were truly exceptional, but the rest left something to be desired. Yeah, so FIFA they spun it very well in their favor. Fox jumped on it within a couple hours, started calling it the best World Cup ever. Some people I have interacted with say it's the best since '86 or the best since '98. It was good. I think when we look back 4, 8, 12, 16, 20 years from now, we won't remember it as being as good.
I thought it was a pretty good World Cup. The group stage was exceptional. On the final days of some of the groups, we had some really good games that, the tide of the group turned on a couple minutes here, a couple minutes there. The Spain, Morocco, Iran, and Portugal group, I think, was decided in the last 10 minutes of both games.
Yeah.
So we had some good group stage finales. I think in the knockout rounds we had some decent drama too. I mean, we had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 or 6 games go to penalties or extra time. I think for casual fans, that's exciting.
Yeah.
You can say what you want about penalty kicks. I'm not a huge fan, but it is pretty exciting. And even though we didn't have some huge stars, I think we had some players that will be the next wave, like Mbappe, kind of announcing themselves to not only regular fans and casual fans. This is someone that we can follow for a long time, someone that everybody knows. So I think that's good. So I thought it was a good World Cup.
Best ever?
No, I thought it was better than South Africa. And what was the last one?
Brazil.
The 2006 World Cup I thought was pretty good. One of the better ones, I would say, in the last decade or so.
FIFA makes sense on this list because FIFA, as far as whatever they could control, I think they did a good job of. They can't really control how the games play out. That's really not up to them. But it does tie right in with Russia and Vladimir Putin and the success that they had with this tournament. It certainly, from this side of the world, seemed to go off without a hitch. Everything seemed to go well. And it was just, I think, very kind of impressive that not really any stories of, these stadiums are just built in the middle of nowhere and are going to become rubble in 5 years, or anything about that, where there's going to be lasting negative effects from hosting the World Cup. And there really wasn't too much negative going into it, aside from the hooliganism that everybody talked about that we didn't really hear much about once it actually started. it's hard to argue that, yeah, it definitely was a success for Russia and Vladimir Putin, at least with how the world has received it.
Does that represent a failure on the part of, I guess you can call it the media, or whoever was just there to tell the story? I don't know. I watched the World Cup from an office in Boston, so it's fairly far removed from what was going on the ground. But I thought the pitch invasion organized by the Russian punk collective Pussy Riot was very telling and almost perfectly timed, perfectly placed for the final because, as I said on episode 3 of World Cup Now, this World Cup was going a little too well for Putin, or it's almost like this image that's being projected was contradictory to a lot of what we sort of see and hear about Russia. And yeah, it was just on the biggest stage. Somebody comes out and says, hey, this pitch invasion had a message, which was, long story short, free political prisoners, allow political competition, do not. It was a very telling statement of, maybe we can say, what's going on. Stop illegal arrests, stop fabricating crimes against people. Serious charges against the state that seemed to be ignored by much of the media that was there. But most of the media that was there are soccer writers and sports writers, so
it doesn't really fall into what they were there for, as well as.
And there was kind of a lot going on in there.
They're
but,
busy with other things.
You know, for the world's broadcasters and everybody that was there, especially outlets that committed serious resources to this World Cup, how do you not cover that aspect of effectively it's becoming a police state or has become a police state? And yeah.
Well, that's interesting, and not to get into like a political argument, but if you're Fox, say, and you have this studio in Red Square, and you suddenly start doing in-depth, pulling back the curtains journalism of behind-the-scenes stuff in Russia, and it's very negative, what then happens to your production there? I wouldn't be surprised if it takes less than a few hours for them to come and shut down your studio that you've spent millions of dollars constructing and getting everything, pulling back all the red tape to get it there, and now your just whole production is shut down and you're producing your World Cup coverage from your Los Angeles studio. I don't know. Like, can we expect that? Like,
I mean, what do you gain from having the studio in Red Square other than optics?
That's it. It's only optics.
It just looks a certain way.
Yeah.
Sounds a certain way.
Right.
You can put a green screen and make it Red Square.
Well, we should have done that.
I guess it's just there was a ton of media, extra media in Russia for the past month, and they were all focused on a sporting event. And I guess while we probably, like, it would have been great and good for maybe whatever is being covered up to be uncovered, but it's tough to expect that of the sports outlets from any nation.
It's also easy, far too easy, to just look the other way.
Yeah.
And I think Pussy Riot prevented the world from doing that. Right. So good on them.
So can we add Pussy Riot as a winner to this World Cup?
Yes. Putin won, Russia won, Russian opposition won. Yeah. Immigration.
Okay.
Big winner. Big winner.
Now, why exactly is immigration a winner?
Because every leading team had top players that either had parents who were from another country or were born in other countries themselves or had spent significant time in adopted countries. It's just, you know, look at what people can achieve when...
France chief among them.
Yeah.
Yeah, France.
Yeah, they had maybe 15 or more players.
Yeah, Africa's team.
From
France.
From another country.
I think it shows the positives that immigration can bring to societies, especially those that give immigrants a chance to thrive in those societies. Mm-hmm. Not saying France has done that. France football
has done that.
Well, VAR. Henry Bushnell had VAR in the winners category. I think this was the first World Cup that they did it with, correct?
Yeah.
Yep.
I think it went pretty well for a first time.
I think it went great for a first time.
Yeah, I think it was solid. It didn't really slow the game down too much. We didn't have like 4 or 5 of them every game. My thing with replay in every sport is I'd rather get it right. I understand there's going to be human error, but when you're at the World Cup and it's like a penalty, which could be a goal, which is going to decide a game or the entire tournament, my thing is just get it right.
Yeah.
And I think VAR helps us get it right. It's not going to be perfect,
it
but
helps. It gets you closer.
It gets you
Or will
closer,
bring
yeah.
those percentages of right and wrong calls closer to 100%.
So I would definitely put it in the winner category. And I would like to see it at the Euros. I'd like to see it in the Premier League.
MLS has it, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. So, yeah, it's going everywhere. The last winner I think we should hit is Kylian Mbappe. We've talked about him already. Besides scoring in the final, he was also great in the final on Paul Pogba's goal in particular. He made that he ran 60% of the field to run down a ball on a counterattack, and it ended up going to Antoine Griezmann and then Paul Pogba. But Mbappe, sort of his speed and quickness was allowed the entire play to take place. But then also going back to the Argentina match, France ends up winning that match 4-3, and Mbappe has 2 goals. And 2 goals that it's kind of takes a quality player of his stature to be able to get the goals. In my mind, that game versus Argentina is what I'll think about most when I think about one player at the 2018 World Cup. It'll be Mbappe versus Argentina, and how he pushed France through and had his official, whoever you are in the world, if you're the most casual of casual soccer fans, you now know who I am.
Yeah, that certainly was his coming out party. Even in the semifinal, he had that great back heel pass to Giroud,
Yeah.
which is probably the most entertaining moment of that final, even though Giroud wasn't able to score. But yeah, he was fantastic, and not only the goal scoring, but he just plays with so much pace. His skill with the ball is amazing. The type of player who casual fans, really any fans honestly, want to watch and will put in the time, stop what they're doing, and see how he's playing. He was fantastic, and as we said, he's only 19 years old, so we'll, barring injury, we'll see him many more times on this kind of stage.
The World Cup winner at 19 played a key role. I think we can call him the heir to Messi and Ronaldo.
I agree.
Would you say he's better than Neymar right now?
No, not right now.
Not right now?
But he should become
He
better.
might.
Flip
He
a
might.
coin.
Yeah.
High praise. And he's earned it.
Yes.
And he also will donate his World Cup winnings to a charity that builds sports programs for disabled kids.
Wow.
That is fantastic.
Yeah.
I'm excited to follow PSG this year because of Kylian Mbappe. And that had not been PSG's had the best players for...
Did you not follow them last year at all?
Well, I mean,
They kind of had a big thing going on.
Yeah, I'm aware of PSG and what they're doing and their competition in
You're too busy watching Serie A.
Champions. Yeah, I'm too busy watching Serie A, and Neymar didn't make me want to watch them quite as much as I suddenly Kylian Mbappe. And maybe it's just a World Cup hangover going on, but we'll see if I feel the same way in January. But I think I will.
They have Buffon now too.
They do.
Buffon,
they do have
Mbappe.
Buffon now.
Yeah, a couple changes, new manager.
PSG's must-see TV. Has been for years.
Okay, so let's move to losers of the tournament. Argentina's number 1 on this list, and followed by Maradona.
I think that was unfair to have Maradona on that
unfair, too.
Yeah, I
list.
thought he was one of the more entertaining part of their games.
He was a winner, if anything.
Yeah, his reactions were priceless.
Maradona has a show on the Latin American state-funded network Telesur, which was fantastic. There were 31 or 2 episodes. It was called De la Mano del 10, from the hand of 10.
Okay.
And his analysis, his insights, and then, they sort of built the show around him and his stories and memories and things like that. But
Right.
it was low-key some of the best content on the World Cup that I saw anywhere. And I probably watched the last 5 to 10 episodes.
So it was 31 episodes specific to this World Cup?
Yeah.
Okay.
So after a lot of the days, the game days, he would go on and just talk about what he saw from certain players and teams. And it was very insightful and enlightening. And then when he was at the stadium during Argentina games, he was the biggest star on display. So, yeah, Maradona does not belong on this list of losers. I just copied and pasted.
I think we put him into the winners bracket
Yeah.
there.
The biggest loser for me is Germany.
Yeah.
I thought they would play France in the final, and they went out in the group stage, lost their first game. I believe they lost their 3rd game in South Korea, correct?
Yeah.
And they barely beat Sweden on a late goal by Toni Kroos. So yeah, they weren't as good as they have been in the past, but I honestly still believe they have more talent than 95% of these teams. Just for whatever reason, they could not put it together.
It's a short tournament.
It really is.
Mentality.
And they were playing behind the 8 ball right away. Did the 2014 success maybe their motivation suffered a little bit?
Of course it did.
They had been so close for like the last 4 tournaments. I think they made the semifinal in like 5 or 6 of the last tournaments before that 2014 World Cup. But they were a huge loser. They should have done much better than they did.
And just repeat my fundamental point about what went wrong with Germany. They had 6 guys retire and take about 750 caps with them. 5 or 6 remaining starters are not at the standard that they were 4 years ago. I would say Toni Kroos is the only one who has probably improved from where he was in 2014. The rest of them, Ozil, Muller, Khedira, Manuel Neuer, Boateng, Hummels, have either treaded water or dipped from where they were. And this talent that you continually talk about with Germany and the guys that replaced those 750 caps are largely playing for Bundesliga teams that aren't doing much of anything in Europe. So they just watch Bayern run away with it. Yeah. The Germans aren't that good, long story short.
There's some good teams in the Bundesliga.
Yeah, what are they doing in Europe?
They don't compete with Bayern Munich and then Bayern Munich.
Italy sent Roma to the Champions League semifinal.
Yeah, I mean,
sure did.
They did, yeah.
And Juventus was in the final 2 years ago.
Yeah, I mean, we had all German. Bayern Munich goes to the
5 years ago. There was an all-German.
There was an all-German final. Yeah.
Final, yeah.
Dortmund is.
And you know who played in that game?
Schalke.
The guys that won the World Cup in 2014.
Right. Schalke's been to a semifinal this decade.
When?
2011, when they had Neuer, right?
Yeah.
Played Manchester United.
2011.
That was a long time ago.
It was, but I mean, I just think Bundesliga is. The Bundesliga is better than Serie A. It's better than the French league.
I don't think it is.
Is it?
I don't think it is.
I think it's deeper. Maybe the 1 to 3 teams maybe aren't as good, but 1 to 20.
We can argue about this next week when the domestic leagues start up.
Yeah, we'll hit this on
this German talent pipeline overblown. For me.
Let's jump to.
Wasn't impressed with Neymar either.
Yeah, I was about to say Neymar's reputation. I think the. Sorry, go ahead.
No, I just like the rolling around and the diving. I mean, that's an issue, but he didn't really take over. I mean, maybe he was hurt a little bit.
He wasn't fit.
He wasn't 100%.
He wasn't fit. He wasn't 70%.
But
Neymar broke his foot on February 25th. It's a 3-month injury. The World Cup started June 15th.
Neymar. One of the major criticisms of casual fans have is, soccer is too much diving.
Yeah,
and all
who cares about that? Okay, yeah.
He didn't. It wasn't a good look. Of all the players in the tournament, he did that more, and it was more pronounced than anybody else.
But he did that because he couldn't dominate games, because he was not fit.
I'm kind of on Marcus' side here that, first of all, the Mexico fans doing the imitations of Neymar is like what went viral. Yeah. And like what went crazy and what made it so funny and made people start doing their own thing. The video itself went viral
of his actions alone.
But this is...
Yeah, his reputation took a battering because of all the flopping and the diving, and this is somebody who's doing anything he can to help his team win, and he's doing that because he can't operate at the level he usually can.
You need to dive and cheat. You need to dive and cheat the game because you're not fit enough. You just shouldn't be playing.
No, that's Nick. That's wrong because every team is doing that. France was doing that in the final yesterday when they were trying to kill time before the game ended, and this is a problem.
Griezmann dove in a promising position, 13 minutes in, and boom, goal.
This will be something that will be impossible to get rid of in soccer, where a player will dive to try and draw a foul. That'll never end. But where it gets really bad,
I don't buy the casual fans hate diving and flopping and all that. It's because when it happens in the NFL, happens in the NBA. I'm sure hockey players will dive, for whatever reason. That's not a deal breaker for the entire sport.
It's not a deal breaker. It's just it's not a good look.
I think it's people that come in with preconceived notions, or they come in saying I don't like soccer, and they see something that they don't like, and it's like aha.
I mean, it's one thing if like a middle tier player does it, but when the top 5 players of the world, top 10, when major star. Right, but not every team has a team full of those guys.
Yeah. But Neymar, by the way, Neymar's been doing this. Neymar's been doing this at the professional level for 10 years, diving and flopping and rolling around. He's a little guy.
Yeah.
He's not a machine like Ronaldo.
Everybody
He's not
does,
as stocky as Messi.
No, everybody does it. I just think the way he did it so often and some of the theatrics afterwards, rolling the ground, I think it was he did it. It was more of a show than other players who were doing it. And when you're a star like that, you're
Because he couldn't do anything else.
Well, so you're trying to win the game, and what's going on, and what makes it so bad, and what casual fans see, is at the end of a close game, at the end of a one-goal game, the team that's winning will go down more so than, say, in the first half when the game is tied, when they're just trying to draw a foul.
Well, that part.
And that is a problem that can, by FIFA, by whatever league, by changing the system that is the clock, where you play a 90-minute game, there's 78 minutes of action, and
to appeal to casual fans who don't like the sport anyway?
No, to fix the amount of time that the game is played. Because
I've never been a fan of stoppage time.
You have 82 minutes of game time in a game that's 90 minutes, and then you add on 2 minutes, and you don't get a full amount of time. And what's happening is players understand that, and they know that if they lie on the ground for 30 seconds, that there will be 5 seconds added on to the end of the game, as opposed to, so they're just killing time.
3 billion people watched on TV, 11 billion social media views. I think,
I don't
14 billion soccer fans
I'm not trying
don't
to
have too much of a
say-
problem about a little time wasting.
I'm not trying to say that more fans need to get into it. That's an American problem. That's not a soccer problem. But I do think that it's just something that takes away from the game when they're trying to kill time. And it's just unfortunate because I guess in other sports people don't do that because the clock
Time
stops.
wasting, they take a knee at the end of NFL games.
Well, yeah. That's within the rules of the game, though.
Jeez, can we move on?
Sure. Losers. Fox.
I have to disagree on this one.
I agree as well that I think if ESPN had produced this, if NBC had produced it, well, actually, NBC, I really pretty much like everything they do.
They do a great job.
But if
really.
CBS had produced it, I think we would get very similar productions across all of those boards.
I mean, for me, it wasn't bad. It wasn't amazing. It was just solid. I mean, I don't think. I mean, Marcus, you would know this better than we would. Like, are American fans really looking for big technical breakdowns?
Big technical breakdowns?
Yeah, like big X's and O's segments.
I don't know what American fans are looking for, except for
like,
live streams.
Yeah, I
and
mean, I think
highlights.
they want highlights. They want quick reactions to what just happened.
Yeah.
Takes on controversy, whether it's a penalty that was controversial or diving or whatever. I thought Fox did a pretty good job.
I read just the most scathing review of Fox's coverage. It came out in The Guardian. Thought it was funny, a tad unfair. Pretty funny, though. It depends on what Fox was trying to do and trying to achieve. Some people liked some of the commentators, some didn't. Some people liked Rob Stone and Alexi Lawless, some didn't. Fox seemed to they have a little trouble nailing down who their pundits were going to be for what, and there was a lot of criticism over what the pundits said and the banalities that they just come up with. I have a feeling that's pretty much everywhere in every country on every TV. There are people who are just getting riled up by what people say or don't say. One, I don't think there's any objective way to evaluate Fox's coverage. And two, I'm not sure if it was for me. I remember the first weekend that I was watching games. The first weekend I watched most of the day's games on Fox, and I, thought it was like being hit over the head with a sledgehammer when I was doing that for 6-7 hours in a row. I don't know. I don't know what I could turn on Fox's World Cup coverage and expect to learn that, I didn't know coming in.
I'm not sure that when I turn on a Fox NFL Sunday, and I sit and watch a 30-minute pregame show leading into a week of games, that I really learn all that much more than I had known before I turned that TV on. So I don't know what...
I think they were probably capable of delivering information that resonates better with the American audience on the NFL than they do for World Cup soccer, because they themselves probably don't know what would resonate with.
Well, we did discuss this, where we know that certain producers that worked on the World Cup coverage were put onto the World Cup without any real soccer production experience.
Right.
They've been taken from NASCAR, taken from Fox's NFL coverage.
Yeah.
And now that makes sense for a few reasons, because you need more people on the World Cup than you have staffed already. You're not just going to hire some outside producer just for the month. I mean, I guess you could, but they probably just wanted to hire their own guys that they already had. They know TV. They don't necessarily know soccer.
Right.
But, you know, I agree. There could have been better, and I'm sure Fox thinks themselves they could have been better.
Sure.
But, you know, it could have been worse as well.
One problem I had with Fox is that it just seemed like a month-long hype video. Everything was just hyped and sold and promoted, and I think those ingredients were just baked way too deeply into Fox's coverage. And I know that's what Fox does best, is hype and promote and sell their product. And this product was broadcasts of World Cup games. But and I don't think Fox has ever been known for their journalism on, you know, any subject.
Did they have to hype things with the American team not in it to get people to watch?
I don't think so.
Maybe
I think they
the
thought they
strategy
did more than they actually had to, because if the World Cup's on, soccer fans will watch, and there are, by my count, no fewer than 50 million soccer fans in the United States.
Yeah. I think that my favorite part of Fox's coverage was when they had their Latino-centric team calling the games. They were just very exciting as the game was going on. And at the same time, I have friends that are, let's call them casual soccer fans, and they didn't like that. And, you know,
They didn't like the Latino announcers?
They didn't like just the yelling, is what they were saying. They didn't like that approach. And I guess
I didn't like the fact that Latino announcers only worked games involving Latin American teams.
Yeah, that
was problematic.
So I guess it's just to each person is going to have their own opinion. Fox would never, no network will ever please everybody on the way they cover any sport. And I think with soccer being as popular as it is, you're going to have opinions worldwide that are going to completely bash the American production. And any probably worldwide viewer that did like the American production probably wouldn't take the time to speak up and talk about it anyway. So...
Yeah, and then again, I didn't see, you know, coverage from other countries that I could really refer to, other than Maradona's show.
I gotta watch that. Where can you watch that?
YouTube.
YouTube. Subtitles?
No, they dub it over in English.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, I'll definitely have to watch that. Any other losers you want to talk about that we haven't really talked about yet?
Yes.
Yeah?
And we should do this quickly because we're running short on time.
Sure.
Those who can't get past the Messi Ronaldo duopoly, and I know I will admit that I am guilty of it, you know, before the tournament, and that was only because I couldn't be bothered to do proper predictions. You know, I did it for the clicks, putting Messi and Ronaldo in the final. Soccer's a team game, and this current era in this World Cup, more than any other competition I've seen, celebrates the triumph of the collective over the individual, and Fox just kept hammering Messi, Ronaldo, Neymar, Messi, Ronaldo, Neymar, and I think they sort of did themselves and the sport a disservice by not presenting, what else is great or what is great in this current moment.
Well, by the time they were at the semifinals, they had no choice to to focus on a team thing, and even at the quarterfinals, because all those teams that were there were very much teams and a collection of several, if not 11, very good players. But yeah, I think you're right, and I think I'm definitely guilty of it as well, that I was, even just as a fan, focusing on the Messi and Ronaldo matches and not necessarily the Portugal and Argentina matches, and just kind of focusing too much on what those specific players were doing. And I think they sort of helped the narrative with their first performances, at least, with Ronaldo's hat trick and then Messi having missed the PK, just kind of creating a narrative on their own, which I guess they've been doing for a decade.
I mean, that's unavoidable.
Yeah.
People are going to focus on those guys, and every move is going to be criticized.
Yeah.
One winner and loser really, really quick. Europe, they had 7 of the 8 quarterfinals, all 4 in the semifinals and the final, obviously. And Africa did not have any teams in the knockout stage for the first time, I believe, since 1982.
Yep.
Really disappointing. Morocco should have been there.
And Senegal, obviously became the first team to go out on the FIFA Fair Play, which was disappointing because I thought Senegal was better than Japan. Japan probably should have beat Belgium in the next round anyway, but that was disappointing. But I think, and Marcus mentioned this, I think, when we got to the round of 16, that Europe is still the power.
Yeah, center of the world, center of finance, the best run clubs and federations, I think, still are in Europe. And yeah, it's just geography. It's the way the world is, the industrialized world has developed. Europe, I wouldn't have Africa as the only loser. I thought Latin America, poor tournament. They sent more fans to Russia than probably any other region. Maybe North America might argue, but yeah, Latin America, a lot of fans, the passion still there, the talent still there. Administration is a problem. Club level, federation level. They sell their stars to Europe too soon, and this has been going on for 35, 40 years, and I think this is the natural outcome of just not having one's house in order.
Right.
But if Edinson Cavani plays against France
I think that's
in the quarterfinal, if Casemiro is not suspended in Brazil, Belgium, if James Rodriguez plays in England, Colombia,
different story, I think.
Yeah, maybe we have 3 South American teams in the last 8, as we would expect.
I think a healthy James Rodriguez could have taken Colombia past Croatia.
Sure.
In the final.
Yeah, they could have made a deep
I mean, they
run.
almost beat England in that round of 16 game without him. And he was fantastic in 2014. So, but we have bounced around the topics on this show. We have hit a lot of different things. I think it's going to turn out well. Is there anything else on the World Cup before we sign off for the final time? Maybe we take a week off. We don't get back in here, and we come back, in a couple weeks to, I think we all need to, whatever.
Yeah, I mean, I think history will look back on this World Cup pretty favorably. I mean, there's no dominant team, but I think sometimes when you don't have one dominant team, it can be more exciting. The outcome is not as set in stone, and I mean, Marcus has been saying it, that the talent gap between all these teams has shrunk and shrunk.
No more small teams, no more minnows.
I think that's good for soccer. You have Croatia, who's 30-1 at the beginning of the tournament, goes to the final, beats Argentina, beats England, some of the traditional powers, and I think it's good for the game that we have all these teams. Anybody can beat anybody on any day. It's a cliche, but I think right now in soccer, it's definitely true. And I think that's a good thing.
Yeah, I've been talking about the soccer world flattening for years and years now. In tournament play, the technical and tactical ability of teams is less determinant in how far they go than the physical and psychological. So the physical is determined by who's fit, who's not fit, who's, you know, how the teams are, how they train. Psychological, that's the I think the relationship between the coach and his squads, the coach, the captain, and his squads.
And sometimes the country.
Yeah, sometimes the country. I think with England, that was a big part of it. A big part of their success is that, you know, the country got behind them, and you know, I think they're going to be remembered as having a much better World Cup than they actually did. You know, but in these tournaments, it's how are you physically? How are you mentally? France had that extra day of rest. Croatia played that extra game as well. So, yeah, I don't know what I was thinking, ever imagining Croatia could win in the final, but, you know, France, I'm sure they did everything right to a T, and they deserve their success.
I want to thank you guys for letting me come on.
Oh, Nick, you were fantastic.
Yeah.
I appreciate it.
Especially with the amount of podcasts we did, I think having 3 guys was more than necessary.
You were a good foil.
Yeah.
I like to mix it up sometimes.
Right. I think you guys said it all there. I don't want to add anything. I will add a quick story that will take a minute or less. I only say it because I think anytime any of us attend a live soccer match, professional soccer match, we should, you know, talk about it. See what we did. I went to New England Revolution versus the LA Galaxy this weekend at Gillette Stadium.
You were one of the 30-something thousand that were there?
Yeah, season high attendance of 36,000 at Gillette. I obviously went to see Zlatan Ibrahimovic play. Zlatan decided to stay in LA. He doesn't like playing on turf fields. We only discovered this about 45 minutes before kickoff.
Oh.
But we go into the game. The Revs receive a red card at the 23rd minute, go on to score in the 28th minute, surrender an equalizer in the 38th, and then score just before halftime to go up 2-1 into halftime. They're leading 2-1 for the entire second half. In the 85th minute, all this at down a man. In the 85th minute, Ashley Cole receives a red card for the LA Galaxy, evens the game at 10-10. As Ashley Cole is walking off the field, he is yelling at Brad Friedel, head coach of the Revolution. Those two played in the Premier League for over a decade against each other on various teams. Exits the game 2-1. We're finally at even strength. And all of a sudden, in the 93rd and 95th minute, the Galaxy score 2 goals to steal the game 3-2 and go home with the victory without Zlatan. My day was ruined. And that is my story from attending.
Did you go to see Zlatan?
Yeah, that's the only reason I bought the ticket.
Mark.
I didn't know that about it. He doesn't like turf fields, like injury.
That was the thing I saw on Twitter. I mean, I guess it makes sense. Who knows if it's actually
It's not cold here this time of year.
No, I guess it's just a long way to travel. I'm sure he was having a nice dinner on Manhattan Beach. Yeah, I guess that does it for our podcast. I've annoyed Marcus enough this month. I hope he'll agree to come back in a couple of weeks. But thank you for joining us on this podcast and any other podcast you might have listened to throughout the World Cup. If you want to stick with us as we dive into the club season about to kick off in a month or so, we will be back, and you can follow us on iTunes by searching NESN on iTunes to follow all NESN soccer podcasts as well as all NESN podcasts. I want to thank you for joining me. Thank you guys for the fantastic coverage. And vive la France.
Boy, I tell you so. Come on!